When the jurisdiction of the court is founded on particular treaties and conventions in force pursuant to Article 36, paragraph 1 of its statute, it becomes irrelevant to consider the objections to other possible bases of jurisdiction. Therefore, any reservations contained in the declarations made by the parties under Article 36, paragraph 2 of the statute cannot impede the court's jurisdiction specially provided for in the optional protocol. Thus, the court need not examine these reservations further. In this regard, the court notes that the acts alleged by India are capable of falling within the scope of Article 36, paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention, which, inter alia, guarantees the right of the sending state to communicate with and have access to its nationals in the custody of the receiving state, as well as the right of its nationals to be informed of their rights. The court considers that the alleged failure by Pakistan to provide the requisite consular notifications with regard to the arrest and detention of Mr. Jadhav, as well as the alleged failure to allow communication and provide access to him, appear to be capable of falling within the scope of the Vienna Convention ratione materia. The court also notes that the Vienna Convention does not contain express provisions excluding from its scope persons suspected of espionage and terrorism. At this stage, it cannot be concluded that Article 36 of the Vienna Convention cannot apply in the case of Mr. Jadhav, so as to exclude on a prima facie basis the court's jurisdiction under the optional protocol. The court further considers Pakistan's argument that a 2008 bilateral agreement on consular relations, I quote, limits and qualifies or supplements, end of quote, the Vienna Convention, and that the court therefore lacks prima facie jurisdiction under Article 1 of the optional protocol. The court does not need to decide at this stage of the proceedings whether Article 73 of the Vienna Convention would permit a bilateral agreement to limit the rights contained in Article 36 of the Vienna Convention. It is sufficient at this point to note that the provisions of the 2008 agreement do not impose expressly such a limitation. Therefore, the court considers that there is no sufficient basis to conclude at this stage that the 2008 agreement prevents it from exercising its jurisdiction under Article 1 of the optional protocol over disputes relating to the interpretation or the application of Article 36 of the Vienna Convention. In its application, India asserts that the rights it is seeking to protect are those provided by paragraph 1 of Article 36 of the Vienna Convention. It follows from this provision that all states parties to the Vienna Convention have a right to provide consular assistance to their nationals who are in prison, custody, or detention in another state party. They are also entitled to respect for their nationals' rights contained therein. At this stage of the proceedings, the court is not called upon to determine definitively whether the rights which India wishes to see protected exist. It need only decide whether these rights are plausible. The right to consular notification and access between a state and its nationals, as well as the obligations of the detaining state to inform without delay the person concerned of his rights with regard to consular assistance and to allow their exercise, are recognized in Article 36, Paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention. Regarding Pakistan's arguments that first, Article 36 of the Vienna Convention does not apply to persons suspected of espionage or terrorism, and that, second, the rules applicable to the case at hand are provided in the 2008 agreement, the Court considers that at this stage of the proceedings, where no legal analysis on these questions has been advanced by the parties, these arguments do not provide a sufficient basis to exclude the plausibility of the rights claimed by India. For these reasons, the Court, first, unanimously indicates the following provisional measures. Pakistan shall take all measures at its disposal to ensure that Mr. Jadhav is not executed pending the final decision in these proceedings, and shall inform the Court of all the measures taken in implementation of the present order. 2. Unanimously decides that until the Court has given its final decision, it shall remain seized of the matters which form the subject matter of this order.